Why do you keep breaking yourself just to prove you love her? You give, you chase, you forgive, and still she pulls away. Deep down, you know something feels off, but you silence that voice because you think love means never giving up. But what if I told you that the very thing you're doing in the name of love is what's slowly destroying your self-worth? This isn't about bitterness, it's about truth. There's one silent mistake so many good men make when they fall for the wrong kind of woman. And it's not what you think. It feels noble, it feels romantic, but it's actually a slow emotional death dressed as loyalty. In this video, I'm going to show you what that one thing is and why never doing it again will be the most healing, powerful shift of your life. Because sometimes real love begins the moment you finally choose yourself. Why do I feel like I'm the only one trying while she barely even notices? That question haunts more men than they're willing to admit. You give more, stay longer, try harder. You justify the coldness, the emotional distance, the moments she pulls away, thinking maybe if I love her more, she'll finally see me. But slowly, without realizing it, you start to give away the very thing that makes you a man, your self-respect. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts small. You start calling out her disrespect because you don't want to upset her. You say yes to plans you don't want to keep just to avoid her disappointment. You forgive things you'd never tolerate in your friends, yet somehow you tell yourself, that's just love. But here's the truth no one tells you when you're deep in it. Love that costs you your dignity is too expensive. Love that asks you to betray your values just to keep the peace will never lead to peace within yourself. You weren't made to become invisible to earn someone else's love. Let me ask you something deeply honest. Would the man you admire, the future version of yourself, beg to be seen? Would he tolerate being a placeholder while she figures herself out? Would he sacrifice his peace, his pride, and his purpose just to keep her from leaving? Because she literally, we both know the answer, and still you've stayed. Maybe because you thought this is what love is supposed to feel like. Maybe because walking away feels like failure. Maybe because deep down you're scared she's the best you'll ever get. But the most painful truth is this: you can't fix emotional imbalance by losing yourself in it. The more you prove your love at the cost of your self-worth, the less she will value both. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It invites you to stand tall. It's not quiet submission. It's mutual recognition. And if you have to earn your place in her life every day while she barely earns yours, it's not partnership, it's performance. So here's the healing truth. You don't need to become less to be loved more. You only need to choose yourself again. Fully, honestly, unapologetically. Because the moment you stop abandoning yourself is the moment your real life begins. And that is the most powerful love story of all. Why do I still want her even after she made me feel like I was nothing? That question sits heavy in your chest, doesn't it? You're not weak for asking it. You're human. You're wired for connection. You cared deeply. And when someone you loved pulled away, dismissed your effort, or made you feel like a burden instead of a blessing, something inside you broke. So now you chase. Not always physically. Sometimes it's mental, replaying old memories, reading between lines that don't exist, hoping that maybe one day she'll realize what she lost. You tell yourself, if I stay patient, if I stay available, maybe she'll come back. But let's stop here. Not in judgment, in love, in clarity, in truth. Because here's the most honest question you can ask yourself. Why are you still chasing someone who has already made it clear you're not their priority? Think about that. What are you truly running toward? Is it her, or is it the version of her you built in your mind? The one who would love you back the way you deserve if only she could see it. But she doesn't. And maybe she never will. You're not chasing love. You're chasing validation. You're chasing a moment when she finally sees you and says, "You were right for me all along." But at what cost? How much longer will you stay emotionally on your knees, hoping she'll reach down and offer her hand? How many versions of yourself will you abandon just to keep her attention? Let me ask you this. If a woman looked you in the eyes and said, "You're not enough for me right now, but stay close just in case I change my mind," would you still stand by her side? Because that's exactly what you're doing. Emotionally, mentally, energetically, you're giving loyalty to someone who already gave you their answer in the form of distance, confusion, and silence. And here's the hardest part to accept. The more you chase someone who doesn't want you, the more you train yourself to settle for emotional scraps. You teach your nervous system to crave anxiety. You start believing that love should feel like waiting, proving, convincing, but it shouldn't. Real love doesn't make you feel invisible. Real love doesn't pull away when you lean in. Real love doesn't confuse you. It grounds you. So take a breath, brother. Step back, step up. You are not here to earn someone's attention. You are here to remember that you were always enough, even when she couldn't see it. The moment you stop chasing her is the moment you start choosing you. And that's the beginning of everything you've been searching for. Is it really love if I'm constantly putting my goals on hold just to keep her happy? That question stings because it touches something real. When you're in love, especially the kind that feels all-consuming, it's easy to start rearranging your entire life around her, her schedule, her moods, her expectations. You start skipping the gym, putting off the business idea, saying no to your own priorities, all in the name of being there for her. You call it devotion, loyalty, sacrifice. But deep down, you start to feel disconnected from yourself. You look in the mirror and you can't help but ask, where did I go? You weren't created to orbit someone else's life. You were created to build something, to grow, to move with purpose. And if your relationship requires you to constantly abandon that purpose, is it still love, or is it quiet self-destruction dressed as affection? Here's what no one told us growing up. Your purpose is not negotiable, even for someone you love. Because when you give it up, something dies inside you, slowly, quietly, but deeply. You start feeling resentful, restless, and lost. Not because of her, but because you let go of the very path that once gave your life direction. Ask yourself this. Would the man you admire, the version of you 5 years from now, be proud of how much you've compromised for temporary comfort? Or would he look at you and say, "Brother, don't give up the mountain for a moment"? It doesn't mean you stop loving her. It means you stop loving her at the expense of yourself. And yes, it's hard because in the beginning, you thought making her your world was the most romantic thing you could do. But now you're realizing that love without balance becomes a slow form of self-abandonment. You were not built to shrink, you were built to expand. And the right woman, the one truly meant for you, will never ask you to dim your fire so she can feel warm. She'll bring her own flame. She'll match you in drive, vision, and support. You don't need to trade your mission for a maybe. You don't need to lose your edge to keep her attention. The real love you're looking for begins the moment you stop making others your purpose and start living in yours. And when you do, everything you thought you had to chase starts coming toward you. Why do I keep explaining myself to someone who's already made up her mind to not understand me? It's exhausting, isn't it? You try to clarify, to express, to prove. You overthink every word, hoping that if you just explain things the right way, she'll finally get it. Finally see your heart for what it is. But no matter how much effort you pour into the conversation, it keeps falling into silence, or worse, into misunderstanding. That kind of emotional labor drains you, not because you're weak, but because deep down, you're still holding on to hope that she'll finally see you. But here's the truth. When someone stops listening, you can't force them to hear. You can't rescue connection when the other person is already halfway out the door emotionally. Let me ask you something honestly. How many times have you rewritten your own truth just to keep the peace? How often have you downplayed your feelings just so she wouldn't feel uncomfortable? How much of your story have you left untold, hoping she'd read between the lines? Brother, you're not a puzzle piece that needs to fit into someone else's confusion. You are not here to beg for understanding, especially from someone who chooses pride over presence. If she wanted to understand you, she would make space. She would lean in, not pull away. She would ask questions instead of making assumptions. Love is not about being perfectly understood all the time, but it is about being seen, valued, and heard, even in the messy moments. You don't need to keep explaining yourself to someone who only listens to argue. You don't need to stay in rooms where you constantly have to justify your emotions. There's healing in silence, not the cold, distant kind, but the kind where you finally stop over-explaining and start listening to your own voice again. You've said enough. You've tried enough. Now it's time to ask yourself, am I staying to be understood, or am I staying because I'm afraid of being alone? There is nothing lonelier than being unheard in the presence of someone you love. But there is nothing more powerful than choosing to walk away, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Let her misunderstand. Let her believe what she wants, because you don't need to be explained. You need to be experienced by someone who's emotionally available enough to meet you where you are. Choosing yourself isn't the end of love. It's the beginning of real peace. Why am I the only one holding this together when it's already falling apart? That question is like a quiet scream inside your chest. You feel it every time you stay up late trying to figure out what went wrong, every time you apologize just to keep things calm, even when you weren't the one who did anything wrong, every time you sacrifice your own peace to avoid another argument, another cold shoulder, another emotional roller coaster. You keep telling yourself that love is about effort, that real men don't give up, that maybe if you just hold on a little longer, things will go back to the way they used to be. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. You cannot fix something that the other person refuses to hold with you. You're not in a relationship, you're carrying one, and that's a weight you were never meant to bear alone. Ask yourself this. How long have you been trying to patch the holes with your own skin? How often have you convinced yourself that her inconsistency is just a phase? How much of yourself have you lost while trying to save something that isn't even saving you? It's not weakness to admit that something is broken. It's strength to recognize when your healing matters more than your hope. Because here's what happens when you keep breaking yourself to hold on to what's already fallen apart. You lose your light. You stop laughing the same way. You start questioning your worth, your masculinity, your emotional strength. But let me tell you something important. You are not broken because this relationship is. You are not unworthy because someone else couldn't meet you where you stood. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop holding on. Not because you gave up, but because you finally woke up. You don't need to keep bleeding just to prove you love deeply. Real love doesn't hurt like this. Real love doesn't make you feel small, exhausted, or ashamed for having needs. So take a breath, look at what you've survived, and ask yourself, if I keep doing this for another 6 months, who will I become? You deserve more than survival in a relationship. You deserve to feel peace when you lie next to someone. You deserve to be chosen back fully, clearly, and consistently. The moment you stop breaking yourself to keep love alive is the moment you start healing. Choose you. You're not letting go of her. You're finally reaching for yourself.